Hello, I'm sure you're watching that video, huh, Amanda?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
welcome to another
fancy.
edition of GBC Live, where really we're just at the upper echelon on our production value. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I'm impressed. I like it. Where are we?
Well,
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube?
yeah, and I think we're actually on like those little paper cups that people have a line to. I have a
Oh,
network in my
perfect.
neighborhood, so there might be some 8-year-olds listening in. Uh-huh. Well, I'm glad we have you on to co-host this because really between you and me, we've won a ton of rock cobblers together, haven't we?
Oh yeah, together for sure. Together we
Oh,
might be the most winningest finishers.
yeah. I mean, I try not to bring that up. I'm a little bit more modest, but but you've been in since day one. What brought you into the cobbler from the beginning? And
Yeah. Well, Sam used to put on the best cyclocross races in Southern California, and they were located at Hart Park. So, where that park that we sort of ride around and sort of towards the finish of Rock Cobbler every year, still hands down the best California cross course, in my opinion, was held there. I was just looking at some pictures from like a decade ago. Um, and yeah, so we did that, and Sam used to do like NorCal versus SoCal championship races there, and so we just got to know Sam. Dave had been racing cross, and one day Sam was just like, "I have this stupid hard ride that I'm gonna do sometime in February. Are you guys in?" We were like, "Sure, sounds great." And that was really all it took for us to get hooked. I mean, I think we knew that Sam could put on a good cross race. And so if he's telling us he's going to do some stupid, hard, long cyclocross race that was going to take hours, we were like, sure, why not? And that was basically history from there.
so then did you bring your cyclocross bike to year one?
Yes, we all did. That's all we had.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this year's edition, more so that I think I finally have learned that I need bigger gearing, I need better tire clearance, and I think like a lot of people see the pictures and the images, and they're super intimidated. I was,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think it's a big, you know, love hate love relationship that you're just very elated to finish.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I saw you did a cross race a couple weekends ago, right? What do you think about Rock Cobbler being considered like a really long cyclocross race?
the hike bikes are much different.
Okay, okay. Well, you haven't done like a serious. You haven't done a Sam Ames Hart Park cyclocross race. In that case, they're pretty similar.
Oh boy, I'm really cornering myself on all this. I don't want to comment. Well, with that, we should bring in Sam, and maybe we'll call him. It's a new look.
I had to get out of the work clothes. Sorry.
Uh huh.
Oh, and the Dave Chic imitation mustache.
It's so good. It's so good. I approve.
All for the cobbler. I mean, why not?
Now, what's interesting was a few months ago, I was going up to the Grizzly Gravel grinder, and I was staying at Tony's house,
Mm-hmm.
and I met your friend Dwayne,
Yes.
and I was kind of like, you two almost look like brothers. Is that why you grow? And even the way you talk, did you grow the mustache to distinguish yourself from him,
Um,
or?
no, I just wanted. I had it last year. My wife's not a big fan. She's like, "Yeah, could you get rid of that thing?" And then this year for the cobbler, I'm like, I'm gonna go the mustache. So I don't know, just something fun to do.
Yes.
Yeah, why not?
Well, it's definitely an what would you say, Amanda, an adjustment?
Yeah. Yes, but like I said, I like it. I think it fits. Dirty stash, 10 years. Why not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Been a lot of mischief going on up here in the last month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
As always, I mean, it's part for the course.
Well, last year was obviously a big year, being 10 years in, and I know you never give details beforehand, but now we can talk a little bit after. But How do you feel your it looked like it was kind of like a greatest hits of Cobbler's past?
Well, you asked me that last year, and I mean, the list is, Amanda can tell you, the list is long. Yeah, I think every year somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, this was the best one. This was the best course. That was the best sort of shenanigan." And I don't know. It's such a tough question to answer because it comes together very, like, we're working on things right now, even this week, to do for this year that have just sort of come together organically. Like there's always ideas, but there's never a perfect plan ever. So I don't know. All of it, the sum of 11 years, all shenanigans are on the table. They're all good. But I told you last year the beach balls was still probably one of my favorites. We rolled beach balls down the hills at people. Yeah, because why not?
I mean, in the intro, Amanda, you were saying that you kind of doing the cyclocross races, you knew that kind of going in there was going to be some crazy stuff, but did that make you ever prepared for what you were going to go up against?
No, and there's never really any way to prepare for the chaos that is a Rock Cobbler course, whether it's the short one, the regular length one, or now even the super long one. Like, there's no way to prepare for it. And I think one of my favorite things about it is the time of year. Everybody always says, like, "Oh, it's only February. I'm so out of shape." It's like, that's the beauty of it. We all are. Nobody's really in shape and ready for this thing. And that's what makes it so grueling and fun, is that we're all kind of suffering in this together. And like collectively, none of us are fit for it. So it's okay.
Now, uh, you already alluded to it, but I guess this year's edition is going bigger with the addition of the Boulder. And, people have been asking me a lot of questions, and I'm like, I don't have the answers for that, other than it just sounds even worse than what we're normally going through. Why did you want to add this on top of already all the chaos that you have?
Because people keep asking for it. I mean, give the people what they want. No, I mean, true. I'm joking a little bit, but people have said to me, people that have come for a number of years, that have said, that are very good endurance athletes. So like, can you do a bigger one? And I'm like, no, why we want to do, it's already really hard. Why do you want to do it bigger? So finally this last year I relented. I was sitting at home before October 1st and I was like, all right, I'll do it, but I'm only gonna do it for 50 people because I want to test the waters and kind of see. So there's an additional leg onto both the Pebbler and Cobbler portion. So there will be a split off where the boulders will get to do more. And we just did it on Sunday, as a matter of fact. So
you finished it.
We finished it. Yeah.
And
10 hours later. Yeah. It's about, without giving away too much, since I haven't sent them the routes yet, it's about, we were thinking 13,000 feet, but I think it's going to be closer to 12. So 12,000 feet and about 115 miles.
Oh, 100. Oh God, 115. Okay.
But you have to remember, when I tell people that even they're really good, like a Ben Raymond or somebody that can, go tackle that, no problem. It's Cobbler miles. So it's not like 115 mile, a slightly extended century. This is slow pace, slow grind. And we still don't know the weather forecast. So 115, for us, it actually took us 11 hours, which is the absolute maximum cutoff because of daylight. So we got back to the finish at dark, like right at the last little light you could use without using a light. So it's going to be interesting.
Are you starting that race at 6:30? Like it says on...
Yeah, they have to start an hour and a half earlier just to give them as much time. And there's a lot of people in that field that are very capable, that will do it way faster than we did. But the promoter always has to look at the worst case scenarios, like who's going to be the slowest. That's the benchmark, which sounds ironic, but it's important for safety and all that stuff. Yeah. So 50 people wanted it and they got it. It sold out.
You should have done like an application. Like, are you physically able to do this?
I vetted. Yeah. I went through the names that I knew, and then I vetted some of the others. I told them, like, look, some of them have never done the Cobbler. I'm like, if you've ever done it, you have to understand the nature of the beast. And this is not, you know, I always say this too, with total respect of Bobby and so many people from the Midwest. This is not Midwest gravel. This is like adventure bike meets cyclocross meets mountain bike meets what the hell am I doing? So, you know, understand what you're going to get into. And look, and if you triumph and you come out, you know, on top, then that's hero room. But don't come into it thinking like, oh, I'm just going to challenge myself, because that's not, you got to be fit. Yeah. Now, you can do the pebbler. You can pull the pebbler out, I think. So.
Well, you know, is it going to be, so you said it's going to be tougher, those extra 30, 40 miles is going to be a much tougher ilk. Is this still, you know, I know a big thing about your courses is you have a relationship with a lot of private land. So, you know, is this kind of like more of the same? Because like, you know, I think like a lot of people that try and come early, try and scout the area, you know, the foothills like is a lot of fun, and but it's a little bit different once you kind of go into those ranches and have those longer climbs and canyons and everything.
Yeah. Well, I always say to people that want to come scout, please don't, because we've gotten to a point now where it's taken me 10 years to build some of these relationships. So I hate to be Debbie Downer, but I don't want people hopping fences and getting on ranchers' property, because that would just put a nail in the coffin of the event. So getting the legal part out of the way, a little bit of both to answer your original question. So a little bit more private, maybe a little bit more public. The private sections are, you know, those are the things that people have walked away with the last couple of years once we've added to them. Amanda can speak to, you know, Rio Bravo and the things that we were blessed with in the very beginning. That was like, I don't know how we could ever get more, but we have. And I've built some really good relationships and had some people come into my life that have landowner relationships. So it's kind of a very Bakersfield thing. You know, that's one of the joys of doing the event, is bringing people to Kern County and sharing all of this fun stuff with them. And then the local people, instead of it being like a century that happens every year where you do the same route every year, the local people or local riders get excited because they get to ride stuff that they don't get to ride. So as is tradition, we to also answer your question, we always are changing. I'm always trying to find a new trail. So while we might do the same areas, a lot of the stuff we use has not an endless supply, but a good supply of mix up, so that 4 years later, we can go back to, you know, the Cow Trail of Death or whatever trail that has a moniker, and twist it and turn it a little bit differently and do a different sections. People go, oh, we never did that part before. So that's, you know, it's always I'm always trying to make it unique every year.
Are you going to that area north of Kern River, like the other side of the river again?
Yes, because that affords us a tremendous amount of mileage where I don't have to worry about the foothills. And the foothills are, you know, there's that funny part of like, oh, it's Bakersfield, we rode past a bunch of trash. And, you know, that's funny to a point. And then it's just like, okay, this is kind of ugly. But, you know, in the early days, you remember, Amanda, we did what we could do with what we had. That was the whole thing. We'd be like, okay, well, let's see where this goes. And we got to cut through the foothills to get over there. So it just was part of the recipe. But now, having more private land, we don't have to do as much of the foothills. And a lot of that's gotten cleaned up, and some of the motorcycle traffic and the people shooting guns has slowed down. So it's better, but I'll take the private land any day. You know, it's a blessing, a huge blessing.
Semi-controlled with the cows, but it's okay.
I got a lot of cowboys on the payroll again this year.
Nice.
Yeah. I was impressed on that one term where there was a couple people there on horses, just making sure that you know, no funny stories happen again, which is really appreciated. But yeah, it was a little wet last year. Was kind of like the bigger thing. Although, what was the really skinny part where right after I lost my batteries, that was what the cows trail of death. Yes. Yeah. We might be in that area again.
So the water thing, because I didn't get a chance to talk to the masses about it, and I didn't do it in a follow-up email. That canyon that we've ridden a couple of times is absolutely one of our favorite features. It's almost like Mr. Toad's in a climbing capacity. So when we found it, we said, and we knew it connected to what different ways that we wanted to go. I was like, okay, this is amazing. Well, the rancher that owns that property you didn't see it last year, but there's a pond, and the pond was leaking because of all of the rain. So while it did rain a little bit, I mean, because everybody said, hey, before that section and after that section, it was great. So that pond was running down and leaking. And that's why a lot of that got just so saturated and muddy. So hopefully that doesn't happen this year. He's fixed the leak. And we'll, maybe hopefully go through there or somewhere close by again.
Okay.
But it was just right. I think there was enough of an element of that for people where they got their feet wet and felt like they got a dose of weather without destroying their day. And that, I can't control the weather. As I watched people walk through all the mud at what was the event, Amanda, in Kansas, where they had to
Unbound.
walk. Yeah, Unbound. Fortunately, walk for several miles, and I thought, gosh, I don't want to do that to people. But I can't control what happens. And the ranch is all that stuff, because it's further east. It can get more moisture and stuff than we get in town. So we'll keep our finger on the pulse of that.
One quick question. For people that if it's 11 hours of sunlight, but somebody kind of gets caught when the sun gets down, should you suggest these people bring lights? I mean, I imagine someone's going to have mechanical or kind of like be stuck out there, probably towards, it just happens. But if somebody does get caught out there after the cutoff.
Yep. So the Boulder riders are getting a few more emails than the rest of the group is, just because of a few of those specifics, their start time. I emailed the group this morning about, how do you guys feel about, are you going to need an aid station at 17 miles? Most of them are probably not. They're pretty well equipped and pretty well prepared. But yeah, the sunlight, or when sunrise happens and when sunset happens, will be one of their things that I don't know that I can make them do it, but I would say any rider that's tackling an endurance event like that has equipment, and I would certainly say pack a light. It wouldn't hurt, because people get tenacious. We always enforce, look, you got to be at this aid station by this time, or we're going to reserve the right to sag you in or turn you around. And they are like, please, I'm begging you, let me finish. Like, I'm good. I got a light. I got this. So we have to sort of kind of play that by ear, because I want them to get their experience out of it, but I also want people to be safe. So, the boulders, thankfully, once they do most of their hard stuff, if some of them felt like I got to cut this short, there's going to be a good out for that. So we'll give them all the data they need, just like we do with the pebblers and the cobblers. So just a bigger amount of it.
Now, Amanda, from your perspective, I know next week on Friday you're giving a talk about this, and then doing a ride on the Saturday the 27th. Like, what you've given talks like these before, like, how do you approach these? Are you just there leading off and like, look, there's these things you need to know going in? I've seen it from all different angles. Or are you just trying to ease people into it, or just scare them so that way everything is all butter once they get there?
I mean, I think my marketing tactic with Mammoth. It's just scare the crap out of you so that you prepare as well as you can. And yeah, I did a pretty good job of that last year with our Tough Talk. I even had a few guys from Orange County tell me afterwards, like, man, you had us worried about Cobbler. Like, we had our saddlebags packed, like we were going to be out there for 12 hours. I was like, perfect. Because if something happened that you needed that. So I always tried to recommend people prepare for the worst. And especially with Rock Cobbler, like, one of the beauties of Sam's event is that you're out there and it's not easy to get to. So if something does happen to you, like, the people around you are going to be the first responders. So if you have stuff, you're going to be able to help somebody else, and you hope that everybody else around you is going to be prepared if something happens to you. So yeah, I think Rock Cobbler, more than any other California event, you just have to be a little bit more prepared for, especially the time of the year because of the elements. So in our presentation on Friday, we basically go through like every horrible thing that could go wrong and how to mitigate that and make sure you have all the stuff to mitigate that. Yeah, and just be prepared. I mean, there are crazy stories. There's always crazy stories. So yeah, we know them all. So we try to make sure you're ready for them.
Yes. Well said.
Yeah, I mean, like even little things like I mean, I hate saying this, but because I know I'm also part of it, but Californians, Southern Californians, especially Orange County, very especially, are very soft. Like, we're not hardened, tough people, and doing hard things does not come naturally. So even little things like getting off your bike and having to hike up something, like I tell people they're going to have to do that. And it's like, oh, my shoes are going to get dirty and I have to put my bike on my shoulder. And like, yeah, if you sign up for Cobbler, you have to do that, and you have to practice little things like shouldering your bike, and you just need to know how to do it so that it doesn't scare you or catch you off guard in the middle of an event like this. So yeah, I've thought of everything, every stupid little thing that you need to practice before this event. So yeah, be ready.
She knows.
Well, I mean, that's another angle, is like, the scope of this race in terms of, the pro racing field coming in, and this being a much more, coveted event for people to do. And, even though there's still probably a lot more randomness thrown than at most other events, like, this has turned into a pretty sought after, result for people, especially being early on the calendar. And I don't know if that was one of your initial goals with this race. I think it's probably just kind of like more evolved, just because the event itself is so great. And I guess John keeps coming back. Yes. After creating more curse words. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure both of you can kind of like speak to about how, just the integrity of this race is really kind of like made a mark early on the gravel calendar.
I want to hear Amanda's take on that, but I'm going to correct you on one thing. It's not a race. It's a big, giant ride.
Yes.
So people can race it up as much as they want, and a lot of people do. There's multiple reasons why I never wanted it to be a quote unquote race and have prize money and all of those factors. And we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But for me, Amanda knows all the people that helped me, a lot of the people and the guys that helped me put this event on. And that is obviously grown with the growth of the event. But we are like so humbly grateful that people want to come and do it and get it. Because when we started with 50 people, we were laughing. We're like, nobody is going to want to come do what we do the way that we do it. But that was the joke, was we were serious, but it was like a joke of, we had to go down that thing, and then that didn't go over there. And pretty soon we kind of thought, well, this is kind of fun. It's like a big adventure. So that's the nature of the beast. That's why I use terminology like first finisher for each of the categories, not having prize lists, telling somebody like Tinker and Peter Stetna and, whomever, Borselman, anybody, I'm like, yep, you get the same thing that everybody else gets. You just get a bigger shovel. And they're like, and they look at me and we hear me like, and I can just tell they're like, we got it. That's totally awesome. We just want to come train and have a good time. So there's a lot of events out there that do amazing jobs with the competition aspect of where gravel is going. I applaud them tremendously. For us, it was always about staying, we can grow and we can get to 1,000 people and bring in some sponsors and do it, but it still has to be about the nucleus of are meat and potato riders that are looking for something unique and different, that want to come challenge themselves. And then we will embellish the party of it and give them a lot of, I mean, we put so much money, all their entry fee money, when people are asking for refunds, like we put so much of that into the event to make it better, to go, we want to give you the best food. We want to give you the best swag. We want to give you a really cool gift at the end. We want to have, you know, the best aid stations. We didn't have soup. You want soup? We're going to have soup, or whatever it is. Like we're nothing without the riders. And I've said this a gazillion times. Our riders are customers, and I want them to be treated with a customer experience, just with some goofiness mixed in that, you know, people kind of get. And I've had people email me like, hey, we appreciate the efforts you do. That was not my kind of thing. Why did you make us walk up this hill? And I usually break it down. I answer every email. So every email that comes through via Bike Reg or through the website comes to me. And I answer every one of them as fast as I can. And I usually am like, hey, we're not for everybody, because you're going to get your white shoes dirty, and you're going to be pissed, and you're going to fall, and you're going to be hungry, and, you know, and run the gauntlet. So that's the nature, is big, giant adventure, for the challenge, making friends along the way, telling war stories and having a beer, or if you don't drink, have a Coke, sit around the fire. I always want it to stay that way. So it will stay that way.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's definitely an event. And not only do you not like force the celebration of the winners, 1 year you put a target on our backs. Remember when you had those stupid jerseys with the target? I still have that thing. And you made it a joke for the winners from the previous year. We had to wear this stupid jersey with the target on our back, and like you almost poked fun at the idea that we were going to race it, kind of thing.
100%.
And I've always appreciated that.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
We were going to I was going to give, assuming I haven't heard from them yet, but let's assume that Chris and Anna were going to, I was going to get like a wife beater tank top with a target on it and say, like, you can wear your gear and it's cold, whatever, but you got to put this on over the top.
Yep.
So, you know,
I mean,
that's just, you know, whatever. That's just what we love to do. We take it seriously, right? It's no joke to get out there and do it. But a lot of people have embellished it. They've taken their flair to it, but we really still love it. At the end of the day, we want to have fun. And I think that's what people they go, these guys have a nice little vein, and they're unique, and, you know, trying to do stuff that other people don't do. But I respect so many promoters that are out there putting on, you know, Amanda, she's heard me say this over the years a million times. I always prayed that if we would see this type of, maybe not the cobbler specifically, but gravel riding or gravel racing or any of that, hit a plateau that it's hit. Because for people that work in the industry, or they've raced cyclocross and they've done stuff like this with far less equipment, it's sort of like, hey, come check out this arena that we do. You'll love it. And it took, I don't know what it took, but when the light bulb went off, or the match was lit, or whatever you want to call it, it was like a revelation of happiness to me, of like, okay, look at all these people now doing something that I've been doing a long time, and now it's a thing, and it's so heartwarming. So hats off to everybody that's got their finger in it.
There are 1,000 people that come to Bakersfield now to come do this thing. And I have a very vivid memory of walking slowly up a hill, pushing my bike next to, I think it was DeMarkey, and he was like in road shoes and cursing up a storm and extremely pissed. And I remember a split second of thinking, like, I don't know how long this event is going to last if he just keeps pissing people off. I think like that's become the allure of it, is you split people down the middle. Like, you either love it or you hate it, but you found 1,000 people that want to love it. And I think that that's the coolest thing ever.
Well, you got to blend it. I mean, and Chris and I had some good laughs over that thing. And I mean, sorry, not him, but that is a gamble, right? So we sort of rolled the dice and said, well, we want to stick to what we did as adventure riders. We wanted to go out and be adventurous. We wanted to do this, and this is just what we do. But we took that and took purposefulness into it and said, okay, that's really stupid. Let's not do that. So let's do this, and then it flows. So the sum of all parts ends up being hopefully a really good day on the bike. I mean, I could cook filet mignons for everybody, but if the route isn't fun and it has cool aspects and we do what we need to do, that's what people are buying. They're buying their ride experience. The rest of the stuff is awesome, but it's ancillary. They are here for that route, and that's why we put so much time and effort into trying to make it work and make it do what it does. But it is a unique flair. It's not it's not straightforward rolling gravel hills and trails. So
no, it's amazing. I was out there 3 weeks ago, and yeah, it just made me think of, there's some big cities in the Central Valley, Fresno, Sacramento, Stockton, but like I was thinking, Bakersfield just uniquely placed the fact that it's so close to the foothills, and you have that transitionary riding, and I know certain times of the year is like a better time to be able to ride that area rather than going to the higher elevations. And I know it's interesting because I saw, I think last year that Bakersfield was, just in terms of just the people in terms of bike friendliness, like Bakersfield had advanced like a lot higher on the ranking. I think it's from the People for Bikes. But I really think like a lot of people are surprised on the riding of the area. Now I'm doing a ride out there with the Grizzly Cycle folks and the 27th. That is, I'm, without me even asking, I know you're not gonna say, it is not doing any stuff that's going to be on your ride, because we're definitely just hitting flat and going out west the whole way. But I think that just kind of like shows, like, in terms of how close you are to so much different fun riding. I mean, are you still discovering while you are out there and riding?
Yeah, well, discovering a lot. Most of the public stuff has been pretty well discovered, and it's just sort of how you put it together. But on the private property, we are still discovering. And that's the blessing that ultimately I get to utilize throughout the year, and along with a few people that help me plot. And then we do a few handful of recon rides for people that, know me, and I invite them and go. But honestly, that's one of the things that I would like to keep that way. If I could wave a wand and we could just open up all of the cow trails and hills and things that are part of some of that private property, I don't know that I would do it, because even for me, I only get a month. It's not like I'm doing this in, April, May, and June, and, life goes in other directions. I get just as excited about the discovery aspect. So what I like to look at it is, hey, I dug this stuff up, check it out. And so for me, it's exciting. And I think if you don't have that element, then it's not quite as unique as it could be. And that's maybe a little bit of the special gem, or part of it. Part of the ingredient list is we don't get to do this all the time. And so makes it a little bit more special. Now, the general road riding and mountain biking and some of the other things, I would say I've lived here my whole life. I would say we are solid. Road riding is really solid. Mountain biking, you've got to get in your car and go a few places beyond the foothills. But on the gravel bike aspect, or you could use a mountain bike for that matter, of course, there's a lot of things you can string together. It's not an endless supply, but it's good. So that's why I call it solid. And this stuff is magical. So I want to keep it magical. I want to just keep, delivering it every February. We chose February on purpose because of the weather and because of the greenness, and being able to show kind of one of the best times of the year for the county. So yeah.
Like in terms of these, the not just the private lands, but just some of the places you're just going in the foothills. It's the roads themselves are in really good shape, considering there's really so many of them, especially even on the private property where, this is not, they're not doing this just for gravel cyclists. This is just stuff that they use and maybe they take care of. But the fact that, everything is in such, really good shape now. Some of it is bumpy here and there, but it's not, I mean, we get some tough stuff here that's supposedly curated here, but still not in as good of a shape. And so I think like that's the other thing that people get surprised, because your name definitely scares people off, and I think it something, you know, Amanda loves scaring people off or getting them a little bit more prepared. But I just, yeah, to me it's always remarkable just the riding you have around there.
Yeah, so a lot of the private, just quickly on that, the private land, some of the private land roads, they're access roads. So we find the cow trails and the things that go along with it. And trust me when I'm going to say we've found plenty of bumpy stuff for you. But those are power line accesses, PG&E access. So some of those that have to be maintained obviously for other business purposes. So that's kind of how some of that happens. But I will tell you, I'll give you a teaser. We found a brand new thing we've never done before. That's a really good connector. That it is the epitome of a trail with no trail. So that's all I'm going to say about it, but it's really unique. And we'll just see what people think.
A trail with no trail.
Yeah.
So is it a trail? Are we going to get
Maybe.
existential here?
Here's how I would put it.
Is it a road?
You can kind of see where you're going, and that'll be enough to get you there if you can't follow the person in front of you. So in a good way. I'm not going to I don't want people getting lost. You know, that's like the promoter's nightmare is I don't want it to rain during the ride or the night before, and I don't want people getting lost. So yeah, it's very Cobbler-esque. That's what I will say.
Are you planning on doing the whole thing on your moto with the leaders?
Yes. So because of the new element, I do plan on leaving it, early and catching up with the Boulder people. The benefit of the way the route is done is I can do that for a while and then I can sort of cut off. I have an amazing team and they a handful of people that won't let me pay them because they just love to do it. And then a handful of people I do have to pay because they have important jobs. And so I have a really, really good team. We've increased the EMT response arena locations. Like we revamped that last year. There's a few things I wasn't really pleased with because anything can happen, as Amanda stated. So I want safety to be paramount. But yeah, I'll be out and doing my thing and trying to, just check on whatever I can check on.
Nice. Will there be like single track death? Will we have to be prepared for any of that?
Yes.
Single track on the side of a hill. Okay. Yes. My one tip for people watching this, just keep going forward. Just keep pedaling. I got stuck behind some guy that kept looking down the hill and I was like, keep moving forward. And it's so scary when you look down. Forward. Just look ahead.
Yeah, there's a few of those. Although there are parts of this year's route, things obviously we've used before, but there's a few parts of this route that are really straightforward. But I actually kind of like it because it's just every year it's the sum of all parts. We are really pleased with all three routes. I always try to make because it's a shorter. I try to make the pebbler route as give them as much good as I can give them in their mileage because they don't get as much. So I'm pleased with that. So we are going back to a kind of a clockwise route that we did 2 years ago with lots of variations. So they will get a lot of good stuff early, and that's good. And then the cobblers are going to get just everything, and then the boulders are going to be, very tired.
Do you have the same policy as last year with kids on trailers?
Like kids in trailers doing the ride?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Nate is going to bring his daughter again, and they did very well last year. I was concerned about that, but he and I struck a deal, and he followed the rules, and they were super safe, and it all worked out. Kids in tow trailers, no, that's a no-no. But the tandem thing that they did, that was pretty cool. They did good. They did really good. Yeah. He might be the only one ever that I ever do that for.
Well, it's funny because like I was following them down Toads, and I just got totally confused because like I'm trying to follow someone's line, but it's not the same natural line with
No.
some kid being dragged along there at the end, and yeah, it didn't take me too long to crash.
Yeah, Lucy was a real trooper. So they are coming back. They're super excited. But yeah, he's hopefully he's watching. He's my one and only. I didn't want to do it the first time, and I was like, buddy, I love you. I'm gonna let you do this, but you better make sure you guys are safe. So yeah, sorry you crashed. I didn't want that to happen.
It wasn't a bad one. I was definitely playing with house money up until that point. So
excellent.
Yeah, Mr.
And we found all your
Toads can be
batteries.
tricky. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Toads can be tricky. That's what I was gonna say. I mean, and especially last year because of the rain, it was even
Yes.
more washed out than normal. And I
It's
think
more eroded.
for
Yeah.
yeah, and it's counterintuitive when you look at the trail and you think there's no way my tire's supposed to be going sideways down this, but that's the safest way to get through it. And people will like pull the brakes and all of a sudden you're in the middle and that's when you crash. But yeah, for people who have never done Mr. Toads, maybe look it up, watch a video or two, and just be prepared to like keep your speed and stay high on those walls because you can't drift towards the middle.
So we'll give on that point briefly. We'll give when we send the ride routes out on February 1st. I'm going to do a decently lengthy explanation. I don't want to turn it to a giant monologue, but do some breakdowns. So if you look at the ratios of return visitors, because I look at it every year on Bike Reg, it's like 60% returning, 40% new. I think last year it was 50-50. So that's a lot of people coming back. And so they have familiarity. I can't look at how many of them are multi-year returns, but I think a number of them. So I'm going to do a pretty decent breakdown of sections to give people an idea. And I think that will be helpful to kind of touch on your point about, we're going to be out here 12 hours with a fanny pack. There's a lot of good ambassadors to the ride, and they are helpful to other people that are a little bit nervous or they're getting into a thing like, hey, should I walk with this and that? So I'm going to try to open up more than I have in the past. I've always cryptic, but I'll try to spell things out in the route a little bit more for people.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
I know, like last weekend, me and the GBC gang, we did something called the LA Tourist Race, where you have to go, they give you 6 checkpoints, you have to try and figure it out. And, we were only given about 4 days notice. So that's not enough time for people to do recon. And so, I got a lot of questions. This has been happening where I get a lot of questions because I know the area, and I'm just going to make a video. And now I make a video and people still have questions off the video. And we did like a live last week that was probably even more informative because people could ask the questions. I think people are real appreciative, when they have like a little bit more of an idea, especially if they're unfamiliar with the area.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, we're at that point of growth where when it's super small, it's easier to be a little bit more nondescript. But safety is really paramount. Like I want people nobody has fun on the day if they break a leg or a collarbone, and every year we have a few. I mean, I try so hard to convey the level of difficulty of certain sections or just the unknown. We were coming down a trail on Sunday and I was about, just on the edge of really stacking it hard. And I would consider myself a very solid off-road rider. But things happen and there's ruts and there's some part of where you have to that's why I don't like referring to it as a race. Early on when people were racing really, really hard, I was like, okay, hang on a second. You take this in for the sum of all parts. We're not even 5 miles in and you guys are trying to kill each other. Let's just back off a little bit. So anything can happen. And I think the better I can convey, I can find new avenues of conveyance to people for them to have a great experience on the day is important. So I want to do maybe, I wouldn't say a better job, but I want to do a more thorough job of information giving. So.
Yeah, just like a few more expectations. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good one right there.
Yeah, I know this guy was pretty popular afterwards. and had a good laugh about it. I think that's the special thing, is no matter how tough the ride is, the people still, end up with a smile on the face, and it's the experience people will remember. We go through a lot of bikes in our lifetime, but and this is kind of an unusual occurrence, but yeah, um, it's just amazing how people, and it's different, in other types of races where people really get cursed and really down. But I think like everyone's attitude out there really powers people through this, and everyone's kind of in it together. And it's a special mantra. I mean, honestly, like I wanted to quit last year because I screwed up. I put it, but it wasn't about the course. It was me, because like I had put a new chain on with a really old cassette right before, and it wouldn't shift into gears. And then I lost my batteries, which thankfully you went right out and found them a few days later. I didn't want to do it, but like, I just knew so much had gone into it, and as grumbly and how tough it was climbing without all those gears, I was still happy that in the end, I stuck with it.
So that's like, you just give me goosebumps talking about that. And that photo is the epitome of why we love doing it. It's a lot of work. Yes, it's a little bit of, it's a lot of business nowadays, but that guy carried that freaking bike around the venue for 2 hours. I mean, and I was just like, I didn't even know what to say to him. And you can see, and if you look at the photo, you can see it's the corner of his smile. So I don't want that to happen to people. I want them to ride and eat and get fat and happy. But that's the joy of the Cobbler. Is it's an all-encompassing experience of a challenge. And we've had people, the first year we rode through Taco Man's house, they literally rode through his house, and then they did something. I didn't even do the rest of the course. They did something else. They came back to his house. And they're like, hey, can we hang out here for a while? And we're just going to ride back to the venue here in a little bit. Like, it's just whatever you want to get out of it. If you don't finish and you go another way, I don't care. Here's your gift. I love you. It's awesome. And that just brotherhood and sisterhood and peoplehood is what just makes my day. So, and all of my team's day, they love seeing all of that. That is the best joy to us. I don't care about how many t-shirts we sell and how much money goes in the pot. Like, the joy of people at that venue sharing stories and doing what we put together is, man, that's the biggest reward for sure of all.
I think the fact that it's always different too is one thing that makes it so unique. Like why 10 years later is still something Dave and I look forward to, because we don't know we did the Pebbler last year. That was a whole heck of enough for us, and doing something new and different. And I think that's part of the fun and why people keep coming back, is you can do something different each time. I mean, I'm looking at my Strava heat map of that area, like my personal one, and it's just spaghetti noodles all over the place.
Yeah.
And Zach reminded me when he mentioned the checkpoints. Do you remember the Checkpoint Charlie cards that one year you did that,
yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Yeah, I
and
found
the only reason only reason we did away with it is because as we grew, it became a time suck. Like, you have to take your socks
you can't
off.
just,
So we tried to find ways, which actually people really like. It was a good response last year. The push-up challenge, the tire toss, those are two that'll keep going forward because they're easy. You can decide to do it. You can decide to not do it. But hey, I might win $100. And that's just the fun part, where we want to have little carnival-like shenanigans. There was a toying of the take your socks off shenanigan at Ethel's, but we decided to forego it. But we got a few new things. There's one coming back that we did a while ago that I'm not going to give away, that I thought was pretty funny. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. Someday the sock thing needs to come back, just because I would probably not race and just wait there and watch to see what people do at that point.
So Zach, this is a number of years ago in the Cobbler. They got to, the original conception was there was checkpoints, and the checkpoint idea was just like you talked about a poker run or something where they had to check in so we could keep track of people. So we made them do push-ups, and then we made them do, there was like, these are jello shots and these are real shots. You don't know which one is which. I mean, we was all over the boards, but the final one was they had to take their socks off and pin them to their jersey and ride the last 5 miles with no socks. But no, longer than that, because we were on the west side, like 8 miles. But what we did is we made the course run through a giant sand pit. So there was no way it was rideable. So they had to get off and walk, and they have no socks on, and then the sand's in their shoes, and it was terrible. It was just awful.
Oh man.
Yeah, but do you remember what I did?
No, what'd you do?
I just put my socks back on because at that point they said you have to take your socks off. So everybody assumed you had to keep riding with the socks on. And I was like, well, this is a word game because they just said take your socks off. So I took my socks off, rode down, and just put them back on.
So basically, Zach, she cheated. You know,
I did not cheat. They just said take the socks off, and I come into the finish, and Matt and Freeman are sitting there with their socks off, and they're like, "You cheated! You didn't take your socks off." I was like, "I did. I just put them back on because nobody said I couldn't."
There was no Simon Said, so good call.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good times.
Check in with the Rock Cobbler legal department next time we put these out here.
Someday the no socks thing is gonna have to come back.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, Amanda, you've got your talk is at Rockin' Road Cyclery.
Yep, Rockin' Road. We're gonna do it Friday night, the 26th, after the shop closes, 6 p.m. ish, in about an hour. We have a presentation that we'll do with all of the things to expect for rock cobblers, just from all the stories of years past. And then the next morning, the 27th, we're going to do a 40-ish mile ride, probably end up being about 50-50 dirt and pavement. But last year, the feedback was, wow, we can't believe you found Bakersfield in Orange County. So I'm very proud of the fact that somehow people thought I made a very Bako route in Orange County, very punchy and climby, and we'll give you a taste of what to expect whatever distance you do for Rock Cobbler. So join us that day. And if you don't want to come to Orange County, go ride with Zach.
And then, so Sam, the event is sold out. There's still wait list spaces that people can sign up for. But sure. Other than that, February 1st, the route goes out. That's when people will see the little rundown too that you have. You're gonna give that a few days before.
No, we'll do February 1st, and yeah, we did sell out, and again, very humbly in record time. Just blows my mind. I always want our event, not me. This isn't about me. I want our event to always have the best foot forward. I did offer people that have a life hardship the opportunity to defer their entry to next year. That was a big roll of the dice for me to open that floodgate. But I always feel responsible to be the best ambassador of the sport. We had a lot of people take me up on it for any number of reasons. I fielded, I think, all of those, maybe 40 or 50. So I think there's only a handful of people on each waiting list. And last year we got everybody off the waiting list on. I'm not going to make any promises that I can't keep, but chances are good that we'll get everybody in there. The number still sticks at 1,000 because of resources. And, I still want to keep some intimacy of the event. But if you're on the fence and you're in California or in the Western US, and you're like, man, I really want to come do it. What are my odds? I won't make any promises, but we will continue to try to get everybody in that can make it. So, I understand of all people, I know life happens, and I think it's important to have a human element. It's easy to just say, no refunds, no nothing, never answer an email, but I don't ever want to be that way. So we'll do our best to get everybody on course.
Well, I hope there wasn't more life circumstances last year because there was the threat of rain before. I don't know if a lot of people have severe allergies to different type of weather, but I know the show must go on no matter what, right?
Show goes on. For sure, the show goes on. Yeah. Yep.
All right, Sam. Well, thank you for joining us. I will be putting his home address in the comments because for people with complaints, because I think it's just
Send the email.
works out better. But thanks again for joining us, Sam.
I'm going to give you Taco Man's address. We'll give
Perfect.
we'll give Randy's address out. Thank you for having me, and Amanda, thank you for all of your years and years of support. Zach, love having you guys on board. 11.0, we're ready. We're getting ready. A few more weeks.
Nice.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.